editor and save, and then I wouldn't have to install VSCodium. All right, volume data check 2.1, volume check 2.1, volume check 2.1. Let's put the home page on a Synology NAS. That is right. So you might have seen me use this in the last Raspberry Pi video that I did. So why not show you how to install it on a Synology NAS? I know I should probably do this on a Ubuntu server like I said I would do. That's going to come one day. So all you have to do, let's start by going to gethomepage.dev. You don't even have to type in the latest. You can just type in gethomepage.dev. Otherwise, it's kind of difficult to search for, but you're just searching for get homepage. And then we're going to click on installation. And then we want to install on Docker. And we're going to scroll down. We're not going to use this first one. We're going to use the non-root version. So I'm going to copy all of this text here. And then I am going to go to my Synology NAS. So in my Synology NAS, I'm going to go to Container Manager, which if you don't have, you can just go to the Package Center and type in Container Manager, pretty good, and then it should show up. If it's not showing up for you, that means that Container Manager is not supported on your model of Synology NAS, but maybe Google around and see if others have gotten it to work. So we're going to click into Container Manager, close out of there. I'm going to scoot you over because I got to open up FileStation soon. And now we are going to click on Project Create, and we are going to call this, I'm going to call this Get Homepage, because in the future, when I forget what this is called, and if I just name it homepage, I am going to have the worst time on earth trying to find it. So I'm going to name it get homepage, but you can name it whatever you want. So for path, let's make a path here. We're going to go to FileStation. I'm going to go to my Docker share, which you should have if you have installed Container Manager. And then I'm going to click create, and we're going to call this get homepage. But again, you can call this folder whatever you want. So under path, I will set path Docker, and then click on get homepage. For source, we are going to click that and click create a Docker Compose YAML, and we're just going to paste in that type that we copied and pasted from Get Homepage's website. So the only changes we're going to make, so port 3000 is actually a pretty common one, so I don't want to use that. I'm going to change this to port 13,000. If you're not familiar with ports, this is basically a way of accessing a service on your Synology NAS. So what we're saying here, this first number is for the host, in this case our Synology. We're saying that we're going to access this program by this service by going to the IP address of our Synology NAS, :13,000. And the second IP address is for Docker. We don't have to worry about that. And then under volumes, it wants a config folder. So this is where it's going to put the files related to itself. And we're going to need to know that because we're going to have to edit those files to edit our homepage. So I'm just going to put /config, and then it'll say, :app config. You don't have to change anything to the right of this. Keep that as it is. Do not change that. But to the left, that's what we're going to change. So let's make that folder real quick. Let's go to FileStation. In our Docker share, we're going to go to, I'm going to delete this real quick, and you'll see why in a little bit. We're going to go into the Get Homepage folder, and we're going to create a folder called config. And you don't have to do this, but I'm going to right-click, click Properties, and copy this file location here. So what we have here, this .config, is the same thing as writing out that full file path. But since this file is going to be in the Get Home Page folder, I can just replace this with a period, and it's basically the same thing. So that's why I'm able to do that. If that's confusing to you, I'm sorry. I'm not great at explaining things. So let's go down to Environment, and then PUID and PGID. The way that this is set up is to work in an env file, but I'm very lazy, so I'm not going to do that. So if you don't know your user ID or your group ID, that's pretty simple to get. We can just pop out over here to Control Panel. And then in Control Panel, go to Task Scheduler. Let me delete this guy real quick so I can do it with you. We're going to create a schedule task called user-defined script. I'm going to call this Get ID. I'm going to uncheck Enabled. Let's go to Task Settings. And then user-defined script, I'm going to type in ID space, greater than sign, space. And then I'm going to go into FileStation and right-click Docker, Properties, and I'm going to copy this location. Your location is probably the same as mine unless you're putting this stuff in a different volume than volume 1. So I'm going to paste that location, and then I'm going to add a /id.txt. So all that's happening here is Synology is going to run a Linux command called ID, and then it is going to create a text file out of whatever that ID command, whatever the results are of that ID command. It's going to make it into a text file called id.txt. So I'll click OK, and then all I have to do is click Get ID and click Run. I will click OK, and then it's going to make that text file for us. So I'll click out of here, and if I go into my Docker share, I've got an id.txt. If it's not showing up for you, make sure that you pop out of it and then back into it. So id.txt, I can see that my UID is 1028. Yours is probably different, and I can see that my group ID is 100. Yours is probably the same. So let's go back in here, and I'm going to change this PUID to 1028, and then PGID to 100. And we are good. So that is going to be it for this guy. I'm going to click next, and then I am not going to check set up a web portal via WebStation. So I'll click next, and then start the project once it is created is checked, and then I will click done, and it's going to start up homepage for us. And this shouldn't take long. Homepage is very small. All right, we've got an exit code 0, so that's good. I'm going to click close. I'm going to come out of Container Manager here, and then we're good. So to access Get Homepage, like I said, we're just going to use the IP address of our Synology NAS and then colon 13,000, or whatever number you put in there instead of 13,000. If I click on Project, double-click Get Homepage, and then YAML configurations, you can see what number you wrote before the colon. Yeah, so let's click on, if you don't know your IP address, you can click on Widgets, make sure System Health is checked up here on this plus sign, and then under LAN 1, that should be your IP address. If not, it's one of these other guys, but it's probably just whatever's showing up here. So in my case, my IP address is 192.168.86.60, and then I'll just type in colon 13,000. So let's try that real quick, 192.168.86.60. colon 13,000, and we should be into homepage. The other thing you need to make sure is your browser might try to do HTTPS, and that is not going to work. Make sure that it's typing in HTTP. If you are running a Synology firewall, you have to make sure that port 13,000 is open, and if you are outside of your home network, or if you're outside of the same network as your Synology NAS, this is not going to work. You would have to VPN in or something like that. So just know if you're at your friend's house, the library, at airport, whatever, if you're using someone else's Wi-Fi, you cannot connect to this without something like a VPN. But there you go, you got homepage up and running. And the first thing you will notice is that there's a bunch of links. Some of them work and some of them don't. And that there is not really any way to edit anything except for the colors. So check it out. You can edit the color scheme. You can edit it to something kind of cool, something that's kind of difficult to read. So you've got that option. What happens if you click this? All right, just refreshes it. So we need to be able to edit this stuff. And the way that you were able to do that, I'll give you a short little rundown of how this works. You are going to go back to your Synology NAS. I'm going to close out of Container Manager, although I'm going to have to open it up soon. In Docker Get Homepage, we now have a config folder that is full of configuration files. If I double-click any of these, I can see what they say. The problem is if I start to edit them, nothing will happen. I believe what I would have to do is take down the Docker container, and then I can edit them with a text editor and then put it back up. I think that will work. But if I save this right now, if I change developer to yagadabadabadoo, it's just going to change it back to developer when I close out of here. So I'm not going to save that. So I'm going to use a different method here. It's not complicated, and we're just going to do it. We're going to go back into Container Manager. Let's go to Project, Create, and we are going to call this VSCodium. That's right. Actually, I need to exit out of here because I need that file station again. So let's create project name VSCodium. And then the path, let's go to File Station, Docker, and let's create a folder called VSCodium. And we'll go back to Container Manager. Let's set the path to Docker, VSCodium, select. And then under source, let's do create a Docker Compose YAML. And let's get that Docker Compose YAML. So let's go to linuxserver.io. And these people are just the best for doing this. Let's go to docs and then container images. We're going to scroll all the way down to where it says VSCodium. So we'll click this guy, and then we're going to scroll down to the Docker Compose YAML text that we need. I'm going to copy and paste this. Copy this guy here and then paste it into this text box. And we just have to make a couple of changes. So under UID, let's change this to 1028, or you're gonna change it to whatever your UID is. Yours is probably not 1028. And then I remember my GID is 100. TZ is short for time zone. I'm gonna change that to America New_York. You do not have to change that though. So don't worry about it if you're a little bit confused on how to enter your correct time zone. And then under volumes, so the path to config here is a little bit different. It's not to a bunch of configuration files for VSCodium. It's what files can it access. And in this case, I want it to be able to access the files under Get Homepage. So I'll go to Get Homepage. I'm going to right-click that config folder and click Properties. I'm going to copy that location. And then back in Container Manager, I will paste that location here, right before the colon. So before the colon, it's now going to have the Docker Get Homepage config folder. And then ports, here comes that 3000. So I'm going to change that again. I'm going to change this one to 23,000 and 23,001. Typically, if it's a port number, if there are two of them, the second one is for HTTPS. So remember how before with homepage, we cannot type in HTTPS? This would allow you to do that. I don't know what the big difference is. But we are good here. I'm going to click next. I am not going to set up a web station via portal, whatever it says, and then start the project once it is created. This is probably going to take a while. I went ahead and pre-downloaded this so I could do it quickly for the tutorial, but this will probably take a couple minutes to get up and running. So let's close out of this guy. And then we're going to do the same thing. So we set port 2300, so I can just go to, actually, I don't have to use my IP address. I can also use, if you click under widgets, you can use, let me exit out of all this stuff. You can actually use the name of your Synology NAS.local. So I can type in nightvision.local 23,000 and I am in. So you can see that it uses a remote desktop setup, VNC. And it might ask you if you want it to have access to be able to copy and paste. And that might not be a bad idea because it's running in its own desktop. That means if I copy something outside of it, it's not necessarily going to paste it in here. You could also use VNC and then go here and you can type it in there and then it will put it in the, I'm forgetting the name of whatever it's called, paste bin, whatever it's called, that holds your copy and paste stuff. But here we go. Let's go to File, Open Folder, and then Home is probably just going to be that config folder. So inside of this folder, we can see these are all those files that were in the Get Homepage config folder. So I'm going to open that guy up. And here we go. Here we go. We got bookmarks, services, widgets. So let's click on bookmarks. Yes, I trust the author. You know why I trust the author? Because I'm the author. That's right, I trust myself. So let's say we don't want a GitHub page. Let's say that we have an instance of Nextcloud on here. Let's just say that this is part of VD21's server. Those are those links. And then we've got Nextcloud. I can change that. ABBR is short for abbreviation. So if you go to homepage, you can see under GitHub, it says GH. I'm just going to type in NC. And then let's just say that the URL is nextcloud.com, but you could just type in your server address if you want. So I could type in nightvision.local/nextcloud if I had that. That wouldn't be an issue. I'm going to add a line. I'm going to type in icon:/nextcloud.png. So homepage is awesome. It's got a bunch of icons saved for a lot of different applications out there. Odds are if you've got an application, they've got an icon for it. It's just a matter of getting the naming right. And the naming is usually pretty easy. It's all lowercase, and you might have to use a hyphen or two. But Nextcloud is just Nextcloud. So I'll save this, and if I go back to homepage, you can see it'll automatically update, and I've got Nextcloud on here. So the saving grace, how you're going to get through all of this, because as you can see, homepage is not as easy as something like Heimdall. You're just going to go to the homepage website. So we're on gethomepage.dev. I'll go back to the homepage. There we go. Here we are. And you want to go to configuration, and this is going to be your guide on how to set everything up. And it's pretty particular. So if you mess something up, let's just say I didn't have a colon here under href and I go back to homepage, I'm going to get an error. The nice thing is it'll usually point you to the first error that occurs. So that's a great starting point, and I can tell right here, somewhere in this area, I am missing something. So somewhere around Nextcloud, and I know that it's just a colon that I missed. Be prepared for that to happen a lot. You should also know, so you can configure bookmarks. That's what we were doing there, and this has got a good little guide on how to get this working. You can also use widgets. So there are a couple of different things here you should be aware of with widgets. There are service widgets, and I think they're called info widgets. So if I come up top and I just click on widgets, I can get an even bigger layout of all, like what the specific widgets are. So let's say you had a Minecraft server. I can come over to Minecraft and copy and paste this format. It's a little bit confusing. So this is how I had the Minecraft widget. And then if I go to configuration, and then this would be considered a service widget, I think. I can kind of see how I would set it up. So I would, instead of NB, I would use Minecraft. And if I want to, I think I can add some of this stuff, but basically I just need this widget section here. So that's how I'm going to copy it. Let's see if we can do it real quick. So I'm going to see if I can sort of copy how this is done. Go back to VSCodium. I'm going to click on services. This is a service. Anything that's listed as a service widget, we're going to edit in the services YAML file. So instead of my second group, I'm going to delete all of this. So we'll just say my gaming servers. I'm going to delete the first one actually too. So we'll say my gaming servers. And then after that, how did they format that? I think that it's just, boop, boop, boop. You'll probably need a colon. And then you will probably say Minecraft servers, colon, and then you are going to say widget, and then we'll have a little space here, and then let's copy the Minecraft widget. The Minecraft widget format, so click on widgets, widgets, you can see the info, the informatic widgets are down here. So that's where you would edit that widgets.yaml. But these are all services. So let's go to Minecraft, and then we're going to copy and paste this. Well, not copy and paste. I'm just going to do this the way that it says here. So it's type and URL. So this is just saying what type of widget am I? And then what URL do you want me to check? And then allowed fields will show you what information it's going to show. So on a Minecraft server, it's going to show how many players, what version is the server, and the status of the server. So let's edit that. So we'll do widget. Is it widget type? I already forgot. Type, space, type, Minecraft, all lowercase, and then I'll hit return, and then URL, and then let's just think of a Minecraft server, UDP. Let's do 2b2t.org. Should pick that up. I'm going to save this guy, and let's see if that worked at all. It sure did not. I formatted this incorrectly. Let me see if I can get this going again. All right, I got it working, and it was a really simple error that I did is I didn't have this formatted correctly. So I had widget pushed up here, and then these two here, and if I do that, I can tell homepage is not going to pick up on that. But if I space this out correctly, so I needed 2 spaces, 2 spaces, 2 spaces, and I save, and I go back to homepage, I can see that 2b2t is online. It's got 579 players, and then this is the version that it's using, Velocity. I have no idea what that is. If I wanted to, I could also come in here and add a description and say 2b2t Minecraft's oldest Anarchy server. That's right. I watch VidMC. And yeah, there it is. And I've got my description right here. So that is the gist of how widgets work. There's a lot of stuff going on here. There's so much to know about homepage. It's got a big learning curve. If you are able to get a background image working on this, then you are a step ahead of me on customizing and making homepage work. But yeah, that is the gist. Oh, you know, I'll do an info widget real quick. Let's go to date and time. I'm going to copy and paste this format. Let me see. I don't know if my copy and paste will work. Let me copy this guy. We are going to go to widgets, and then let's hit return, and we're going to paste that widget, which I don't think that's going to work. I might need to put this in the paste bin. Here we go. And then close you, and there we go. All right, so if I save this guy now, should get a little clock in the upper hand corner. You can even get weather up there. There's a lot you can do with Get Homepage. It is massive. Oh, you can also see stats about your server. So I can see how much CPU usage I've got. I've got 6 gigs free of RAM and 6 terabytes free of space. So if I come in here, if I go back to home pages, yeah, here we go. Back to date and time, I can see you can change the formatting. So make sure you're formatting things correctly. So if you wanted to change the formatting, make sure you're following this. If you're trying to get this, don't just copy and paste this into the document. You'll get it wrong. Copy and paste this part first, and then edit this formatting section. So if you wanted hour cycle H23, just make sure you're adding that at the bottom. So you can type in hour cycle and then H23 and take a look. It is 1645 and not 445. But there you go, there's the homepage. Hopefully this worked out for you. There is a bit of a learning curve. VSCodium also can take up a little bit of RAM. So once you're done with it, if you don't need to edit your homepage, you can always pop in a container manager, and all you have to do is go to project and right-click VSCodium and click stop. It'll stop. It won't eat up any more of your resources. And all you have to do is right-click and start it up again whenever you want to use it next. And if you forget that, if you forget what the port number is that you put it on, just double click and then click YAML configurations and you can have a look there. So 23,000 for HTTP and 23,001 for HTTPS. Hopefully the homepage worked out for you. And if not, I am so sorry. Just make sure you're getting the colons in the right spot and you'll be fine. Good luck to you.